Good morning. As you can see, we are inside with our gorilla troop, and we look forward to talking to you guys all about gorillas this morning. So as we're getting started, let us know that you're here. We'll give some shout outs and greet everybody this morning. We've got some cute gorilla action happening here. Little boy Mokanzi is quite literally right above my head with his little grapevine wreath, and he's been moving all around, so this is going to be a lot of fun this morning. Hey Richie, good to see you. Hi Max. Hey Mason. Hi Kaden. Thanks for tuning in. Hey Ann. Good morning. Good morning Alex in Columbus. Oh, hi Big Kimmy from Little Kimmy. Hi, Carol. Hi, Tina. Thanks for tuning in. Good morning, Rowan and Kyla and Adrian. Hi, Pat. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Mal and Winnie, good to see you. Drayden and Jordan, good morning. We've got all kinds of gorilla cuteness happening around us. I can't wait to share more of this with you guys. Hi Paisley, hi Harley and Comet. Good morning Mary. Hi Molly and Max. Good morning Easton. All right guys, we are gonna go ahead and get started. Hi to the Howell family and Braylon and Bryn and Wesson. Thanks for tuning in this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started with some daily reminders. Meals on the go. Meatball subs and glazed ham are still available until 2 o'clock today. You can place your order online at toledozoo.org and then pick it up curbside at the Broadway entrance between 4 and 6 tonight. So if you don't have plans for dinner, you do now. Go to toledozoo.org and place your order. Entrees change weekly, so be sure you check on Sunday to see what next week's are going to be. And don't forget about our virtual classrooms through our education department. They're doing everything from training your pet to exhibit tours to animal groups and horticulture. Check in there. Some amazing family fun entertainment that you can get through Zoom. So check those out. Go to toledozoo.org/virtual. And of course, I know this time is dragging on for all of us, but we are happy that you are still connected with your zoo. And we hope that you will remain that way and help sustain us through this difficult time. If you are able, please go to toledozoo.org/donate to help support your zoo during this time. And also you can donate right here through our Facebook Lives. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, we appreciate your support. Thank you all very, very much. And now we are going to turn it over to Anne, one of our gorilla keepers, to tell us all about these amazing animals sitting right above my head.
So we were kind of hoping that being mid-April we'd be able to do this outside, but apparently spring has been canceled this year, just like everything else. So we're inside today. We have our troop of 5 gorillas that many of you are probably very familiar with. Mokonzi up here is our youngest. We call him Mo. He's about 2.5. He's definitely a little ham. So he's our youngest, and then right down below him is his dad, Quisha. Quisha is our silverback, and he's our only adult male in the group, which is very typical for a gorilla group. And then the rest of our gorillas are all adult females, and none of them are related. So we have Sufi up in the corner there. We have Johari, who does not like cameras, so she's gonna go hide. And then we have Katani on the bridge here, and Katani is Mo's mom. She's also a really great eater. So she's up here with her hoard of eggplant. So these guys, they just came onto exhibit about 15 minutes ago. So they're working through their morning diet and some enrichment. As Kim mentioned, they got grapevine wreaths today. I stuffed those just shove some peanut butter oatmeal and some sunflower seeds in there, so they'll work on those probably throughout the day. And then some of them, Mo likes to play with them. Sometimes they'll like stack them up their arm like bangles, or if they get stretched out far enough, they'll wear them like necklaces.
Oh my goodness.
Grapevine weeds are actually a all-purpose fun enrichment item.
Oh, he is just so cute. We could do a whole live
Yeah.
feed on Mackenzie.
He loves to interact with people, especially with kids. So he'll be excited, just as excited as all the other kids out there when this quarantine is up and people can come back and visit him again.
Absolutely. All right, let's start taking some of these questions coming in here. All right, our first one is from Kensley, and she wants to know what all they eat.
Well, gorillas are actually the only great ape that's almost completely herbivorous or vegetarian. So they do in the wild sometimes eat like small grubs and small insects, termites, some types of ants, but they don't really, we've offered them like mealworms and crickets and stuff here, and they're not really into it. So most of their diet, as you can see today, they've got a whole lot of veggies. And we feed them primarily veggies. We give them also, later in the day, they'll get tomatoes and they'll get some lettuce and stuff like that. They do get a little bit of fruit, but we try and limit the amount of fruit they get, just because the fruit we get here in the U.S. tends to be pretty high in sugar, and we don't want to put too much sugar in their systems that can hurt their bellies a little bit. So we limit their sugar, but they do get fruit every day, and they love it. And actually, we use that fruit also for training because they respond so well to it that it's a great treat for our positive reinforcement training program.
That's awesome. And Alex wants to know how many gorillas we have here at the zoo.
We currently have 5 gorillas, which is kind of an average-sized gorilla troop. You can have as few as, 2 gorillas, just a pair of them. The type of gorillas we have, which are the western lowland gorillas, you don't typically find them in large troops. Mountain gorillas there was one documented troop of up to 65 gorillas, but after the main silverback in that group passed away, they kind of fragmented, and they haven't seen a troop as big as that. But mountain gorillas might have troops over 20, but western lowland gorillas typically are under 20 and usually not more than 10. So 5, 6, 7 is kind of typical of what you're going to see.
Very nice. And Bryn and Wesson would like to know, who is the gorilla's closest relative?
The gorilla's closest relative. Gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos are all fairly closely related, and they're all, depending on what factors you're looking at, between 95 to 99% related to humans. Orangutans are also in that great ape family. They're a little bit more further removed. Part of that is just because they evolved and ended up over in Indonesia, which is in Asia, and gorillas, bonobos, and chimpanzees are all located in Africa. So just they've stayed kind of in the same area. So those 3 plus humans are all a little bit more related, and then orangutans, they're within another 1%, so they're still very close as well.
Very cool. And Sam wants to know, how strong are gorillas?
Gorillas are very, very strong. They are exponentially stronger than humans, even if you're looking at a female gorilla who's closer to the weight of like an adult male human. So again, depending on what kind of factors you're looking at, obviously gorillas don't do bodybuilding competitions, so we don't have really good metrics on that. We just know that, we've seen gorillas move this kind of tree that appears to be this sort of weight. So depending on whether you're looking at a female or a full-grown adult silverback in his prime, you're looking at probably 4 to 9 times stronger than an average human.
Wow, that's amazing. And Alba wants to know, perfect.
He's showing off.
You are so perfect, because Alba wants to know, do they ever beat their chests?
They do. That's a display that they'll do to try and let you know that they're big and tough and in charge. And so Mackenzie, since he's learning how to be a gorilla, because he's still, 2.5 years old, so every day he's learning new things. So he watches his dad, he watches his mom and the other gorillas in his troop, and he learns how to behave like them. But the thing about the way they beat their chests is that everybody always does it with a closed fist when they're trying to imitate it, but they actually do it with kind of a cupped open hand. And that's what makes that echoey sound when they kind of slap it against their chest or their belly. Sometimes they'll do it when they get excited about something. So Mo's running around here having fun eating some dry pasta and some enrichment. So he might get excited and start banging on the ground or on the window or on his chest. But it also, usually if Quisha does it, it's kind of a like, hey, look at me, I'm big and tough and I'm scary and you better back off kind of thing.
Yeah. And Avery wants to know, how long do gorillas live?
That's a very good question. Gorillas in the wild typically live on average around 40 years. In zoos, we've started to see their life expectancy increase. So even up until the last 5 to 10 years, the longest lived gorillas were only living into maybe their early to mid 50s. But now we've started to see, especially among the females, we've got a few that have surpassed 60 that are creeping up on 62 to 63 years right now. So this is the longest we've ever seen gorillas, and that has a lot to do with the way we're learning. All the time we're learning better ways to take care of them, both physically and medically. So that helps extend their life expectancy in that way.
And Luke asks, how big can they get? We're seeing a good size difference here from baby Mackenzie to Dad Quisha.
Yeah. Mackenzie, now, when he was born, we've never removed him from his mother, so we can only estimate these things, but typically a baby gorilla is about 4 to 5 pounds. So that's very tiny. That's smaller even than the human baby. But Quisha down there, his dad, is about 415, 420 pounds. And he's on maybe the high end of average. He could probably stand to lose a few pounds. You're not gonna want to see a gorilla that's too much bigger than him. You get too much bigger than Quisha and you're starting to get unhealthy. So low to mid 400s would be the biggest you're probably going to see. I think there have been gorillas recorded up around 500 or so. I think Quisha might have been up that way earlier in his life.
Wow.
So silverbacks can get pretty big, but the females are typically only about half their size. So most of your females are going to be between 190 to 230 pounds, give or take.
And Rebecca wants to know, do they get baths?
We don't give them baths, no. Our gorillas don't seem to really enjoy water. Now, I have seen gorillas that do enjoy water a lot, and I think one of them is actually Sufi's half-brother, who lives at the Dallas Zoo. There's a pretty fun video of him playing in a pool, splashing around, if you want to find that on Google or YouTube or something. These guys will give them tubs of water to play in occasionally, but they don't usually interact with it very much.
Do they preen each other?
They do. They groom each other. We don't physically give them baths like you would take, but they do. Grooming is actually a very important part of their social bonding. So they'll groom each other, and that's part of how they bond with each other.
And Charlotte wants to know, what, if any, are their predators?
Their main, I don't know if you'd want to call it a predator, their main threat is humans, for a lot of different reasons, from humans taking over gorilla territory, from gorillas living in areas that are very war-torn, human diseases. Since we are so closely related, it's very easy for us to spread diseases between humans and gorillas or chimpanzees, any of the great apes. There is some thought that leopards might occasionally prey on a solitary or a very young or very old gorilla, but it's not really clear whether it's a predatory behavior or a scavenging behavior. But leopards are really the only non-human threat I've read much about as far as gorillas are concerned.
And Blair wants to know why the one adult female is shy from cameras.
We don't know. Nobody's ever hurt her with a camera. She just doesn't seem to like them. Even now that, we have camera phones, she sees the phone and she'll shy away. And it depends on her mood sometimes too. Every once in a while she'll decide she'll let us get some pictures. But she'll see us with her camera and go, oh no, not today. And kind of go hide her face.
And Cameron wants to know what kind of toys they play with.
That's a good question. We have to have very tough toys for gorillas, as you might imagine. Oh, look at Mo. He's such a ham.
He's just so cute.
So these grapevine wreaths can be considered a toy. It's part of their enrichment. And like I said earlier, we stuffed those with oatmeal, so they'll pick all the oatmeal out of it. But as the day goes by and they've got all the oatmeal out, they'll still, maybe wear them like an accessory or just kind of continue to pick through them. But we'll also occasionally give them big, sturdy balls called boomer balls or jolly balls. Sometimes we'll fill those with treats that they have to get out. Recently, we've started giving them those Kong wobblers, so they're the hard plastic Kongs that you can stuff treats in, and they're weighted on the bottom, so they have to kind of manipulate them to get the treats to come out. Sometimes that means that they rip them open.
Because they are very strong.
Because they are
too,
very
right?
strong. You can see their exhibit is hung with a lot of fire hose, so that gives them different ways to explore and move around their exhibit. Different hammocks. We'll occasionally move the hammocks around so that we change their environment a little bit, and that's enriching for them too. Sometimes we'll give them a different type of bedding. Right now they have straw, which is what we give them most days, but sometimes we'll also give them, occasionally we'll give them shredded paper, but sometimes they'll eat that, so we don't do that too often. It's not bad for them, but you also don't want them to stuff their bellies full of paper.
Sure.
But what they really love is wood wool, so it's like really finely shaved wood. It comes in a bale like straw or hay would, but it looks kind of like the stuff you'd put in an Easter basket, but it's pretty durable. But they love making big fluffy nests out of it, and so that's one of their favorite things.
That is cool. And Nathan asks, how old is Mo?
Mo was born a couple years ago in November, so he's around 2.5 years old.
All right, let's see. We're still going here with some questions. McKinley and Logan say they love the baby gorilla. He is, as Anne has been telling us, he is such a ham. Like a lot of you have been saying, we could stand here and watch him all day long too. All right, let's see. Kylie wants to know, how do they have such a good grip?
That's, just because they're very, very strong animals, and they learn to climb from a young age. Even from the moment they're born, they're gripping onto their mom's hair to hold on tight to her, so that as she moves around, she's free to move, but the baby's still hanging on. So just, like I said, from the moment they're born, they're gripping onto things, and as they start to move around their environment, they learn to pull themselves up, and the way they're built is just with so much more muscle than the way that we're built. Gorillas stay more on the ground than say orangutans, which are mostly arboreal, but they do still have the ability to climb trees. Particularly the young ones will climb a lot. In the wild, when they make nests, usually they make a nest every night to sleep in. Usually the adults will be on the ground, but the kids might make a nest up in a tree or something. They have just a great grip because that's how they're built and that's how they live their life. So if you go to the gym every day, you're going to get a lot stronger, and that's basically like them. Every day being a gorilla is a day at the gym. So.
And Wolfgang wonders, how many gorillas are left in the wild?
That is a very good question. Unfortunately, there are 2 species of gorilla, and each species has 2 subspecies. So there's 4 subspecies of gorillas, and all of them are unfortunately critically endangered. Mountain gorillas are the only ones that are currently have increasing numbers. So we've started to see a turnaround with mountain gorillas. They used to be down around 800, and now we think there's around 1,000. But those are one of the 2 subspecies of eastern gorillas, and I think I was reading that eastern gorillas are around 5,000 total right now, so that's the mountain gorillas and the Grauer gorillas. And then the western gorillas, so that's these lowland gorillas plus another subspecies called cross river gorillas. I think those are, I was seeing a number that said around 100,000, I think, plus a few thousand, I think around 4,000 in zoos around the world. Western gorillas, western lowland gorillas, are mostly the only ones you're going to see in zoos because they thrive better than the other subspecies. There's one other subspecies, and I can't remember which it was, that has like a couple dozen in zoos around the world, but by and large, you're mostly only going to see western lowland gorillas in zoos.
And Shane wants to know if they seem to miss the public visiting them.
They do a little bit. I think like all of us, at first it was strange, and now we're getting used to it. And it's going to take adjustment again when everybody comes back. Mo, I think, misses the public the most, because he likes to play with kids at the window, and he's not getting that so much right now. We try and play with them at the window when we have the opportunity, but we also have other work to do.
Sure.
So they miss people. They're very social animals, and they like to people watch just as much as the people like to watch them. So that's taken a little something away from their day, but we haven't seen too many problems as a result, but they'll all be happy when everybody comes back.
And just to recap for people just tuning in, let's tell everybody who everybody is again. Mokanzi is our baby running around, running away from us now.
He just ran in back because I think the other keeper, Mike, went in back, so he wants to see if he can get some attention from Mike. So Quisha is down here on the ground. He's our only adult male, our silverback. He's Mo's dad. And then up here on the bridge is Sufi now. There she is.
There's Sufi.
Then down there on this lower outcrop here is Kitani, who's Mo's mom. And then up here is Johari. She's actually
right above our heads.
Flinching away from the camera. She's actually our oldest, but only by a couple months. She turned 32 in February, and Quisha will be 32 in like 10 days, I think. So Quisha's birthday's coming up.
And the way that we can tell them apart, as Anne has told us before, is if you notice here with Johari, Bubba, she has a little pink on her lip. That's one way you can pick out Johari from some of the others. And usually Kitani and Mo are seen close to each other, right? Yep. And Quisha with his silverback, that silver hair on his back, and the biggest gorilla we have by far. And then Sufi is our most petite little gorilla. And obviously, baby Mokanzi is the one running around being a ham.
Oh. He's about to wear one of these wreaths, I think, until Joe startled him.
He's thinking about it, huh? All right, let's see here. Yes, Carrie, Mo is absolutely adorable. And Jeremy wants to know, do the other gorillas discipline Mo?
Yes and no. At this stage in his life, there's not, if he were to get really out of hand, they might nip at him. I think I've seen it once or twice, but he's still in the phase where they're pretty lenient with him because he's just learning things. As he gets older, he'll start to get disciplined a little bit more. Also, as he gets stronger, because right now he can't do a lot to hurt any of the others. I mean, he's got teeth, but they've got tough skin. But as he gets older, he'll get disciplined more and more, and that will come from everybody. Now, Kitani might take exception to that if she thinks that they're being harsh with him, and she might have something to say about it if Sufi or Joe decides to discipline Mo over something. But it's one of those. It takes a village. Everybody's a part of helping with the babies.
Absolutely. And Aiden wants to know, do they have any puzzle boxes like we saw with Denda?
They do. So it's hard to see right now, and it's a lot more easy to see with the ones we have outside when they're outside. But there is one on that door, that keeper door over there. And it's got it's a milk crate, and then it's got a PVC tube inside with some holes drilled in it that kind of spins. So we can put some seeds or Cheerios or popcorn or something in it, and then they have to reach their fingers in and spin it and get the treats to all come out.
And that helps with their dexterity and their mind and some mental stimulation, right?
It does. And we also have some dippers set up. I think there might be one on that door too. I don't know if you can see it from this angle. But it's just a big long PVC tube, and we'll fill it with some peanut butter or some pumpkin paste or something kind of sticky. And then we'll give them some branches, and they'll have to fashion a tool so that they can stick the tool into the dipper and get the treat out. So that helps, again, with their, with a little bit of mental enrichment there. They have to think about how to get to the food that they want to eat.
Very cool. And Grayson, age 8, wants to know, can gorillas be different colors?
No, not too different. Most of them are black. Now with the different subspecies, you might see a little bit more of a brown or a reddish tint in parts of their hair, but pretty much all gorillas are mostly black, with the silverback who's got that silver saddle shape on his back, or in Quisha's case, his entire back.
And Alex asks, where do they sleep here at the zoo?
Here at the zoo, they have access to a whole bunch of area to sleep in. So they'll have this all night long. Plus, we'll open up some more space in the back, and they'll have all of the straw or whatever bedding we're giving them that day to build nests wherever they want. If they want to build a nest on the ground, if they want to build a nest up on the bridge, if they want to build a nest on a platform or sleep in a hammock, they got some hammocks in back too. So they get a lot of choice, and they can sleep wherever they choose that night. But they do have a lot of space to spread out from each other if they want, or to stick close if they feel like it.
What do they typically do? Will they make individual areas, or do they kind of everybody in bed?
Mo will usually sleep with Katani, and he'll probably continue to do so for another year or two. But the rest of them kind of all sleep in their own little space. They'll usually all sleep in one, if you want to call it a room, one space. So either everybody will be out here, or more likely everybody will be in back. But they'll have their own individual nests apart from Maconzi.
And you've told us before that our great apes have bedtimes, and that they snore. Tell us a little bit more about that.
They like their routine here. So if you come during, wild light or lights before Christmas, you might notice that our ape house is closed after 5 o'clock, and that's because these guys want to go to bed, and they get very cranky if they don't go to bed on time. We have our Zoo Friends night every year, where we stay open and keep the animals on exhibit into the evening, and Quisha will sit by the window and just stare at me and yawn all night long to try and tell me, it is past my bedtime and you need to let me go inside now.
And how long do they usually sleep?
They're usually, when we come in around 8 o'clock in the morning, they're usually starting to wake up. They're still in their nests, but they'll look at me when I come in back, so they're awake. So they'll sleep most of the night. These guys are definitely daytime animals.
And talk to us about their snoring. It's pretty fierce, huh?
Yeah, I mean, these guys have some pretty impressive lungs, so if there's going to be a snore, it's going to be a loud one.
Jordan wants to know, have they ever watched an iPad or a video?
We do that occasionally as a form of enrichment. The orangutans are more into that than these guys are, but for example, when Sufi came to us from the Houston Zoo, there's a standard quarantine procedure anytime you ship any animal to a different zoo, just to make sure that we're not bringing any parasites with us that we didn't know about. And gorillas are social animals, so that can be hard for them sometimes. So we would put on a movie for her throughout the day so that she would not feel so lonely. But she had definite preferences. Her favorite movie that we showed her was that old animated Hobbit movie. And I was like, oh, we're going to be good friends if that's her movie that she loves. I used to love that movie too. So we do that sometimes, but not all the time.
And talk to us about their personalities, because they each do have a distinct personality.
They do. They very much do. So Johari, she's kind of, she used to be the dominant female until Katani had Mo. And so having the youngest offspring in the group kind of gives her extra stature. And Katani, she's definitely bossy, and she has definite opinions, and she will let everybody know. But she's also, when she's not expressing her opinion, she's pretty laid back, and until somebody does something that she doesn't agree with. So Jo, she was not as bossy as Katani was back when she was our dominant female, but still kind of bossy.
And Jo is our oldest,
yes,
right?
Jo's the oldest. And she did have a couple of babies when she was younger, but now she just gets to be Aunt Jo. And now that Mo's getting a little bit older and he ventures away from Katani, she was more careful when Mo was younger, and she didn't want to get on Katani's bad side. Goodness, gives me heart attacks. I know he can handle it, but
Yep.
My human heart goes, oh no. But now that Mo's getting older and spending more time away from Katani, Jo is playing with him more, and she's always loved the little ones.
Aww.
So I think she's pretty excited that Mo's at an age now where Katani's more willing to let him play with the others, so she gets a little bit of baby time. Sufi is very sweet, and she's very excited about training. So Jo's really great about training too. She and Sufi are both superstars. Very, I can't think of the word I'm looking for. They're both very excited when it comes time to training, and they're very willing to do whatever we're asking them for. Sufi is a little bit more timid than Jo. So she tends to shy away from some things. I mean, Jo, so I've been working on injection training so that we can give them injections when we need to without having to use like a dart gun or anything. And I gave them all flu shots this fall, and then Sufi since then has been like, no, you're not coming near me with that needle again. And Jo will flinch, but she'll still let me touch her with a blunt needle. But Sufi, we're still working back up that trust.
Still working on it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Quisha, everybody thinks he's mad or grumpy all the time, but he's a big sweetheart. So he is the silverback. His job is to protect the group, and he's obviously very big. He's very strong. He could take on a threat if he needed to. Obviously, he won't have a threat in the zoo, but if he were in the wild, he'd be fully equipped to protect his group. But he's also just very, very sweet. So part of his looking fierce is that big brow ridge that he has, and that's why everybody thinks he looks angry, but that's all actually bone. So it's not that he's sitting there with a furrowed brow, it's just his face.
Just his face.
So he's a big sweetheart, and he'll sit in back and try and get attention from us. He'll like hand us out pieces of straw.
That's his gift.
Or pieces of like bamboo or something, or like probably he'll try and give Mike a grapevine wreath later today. He'll sit there and he'll clap his hands because he's learned over the years that gets a favorable response from us. Mm-hmm. So he'll try and clap his hands, or he'll shake his head in what we call a rubber face that a lot of you have probably seen when we're doing feeds. Mm-hmm. And that's because he's learned that gets a positive response from us. So he does that because he wants us to pay attention to him or give him treats or something. So he's very animated, and he's very sweet.
Aww. And Scott wants to know if gorillas know hand or sign language.
Our gorillas don't. They don't know American Sign Language. We do have hand gestures that we use during training sessions on top of the verbal cues that we give them, but those aren't necessarily a word in American Sign Language. There are some gorillas and some other great apes who are taught sign language in whatever, language of the region where they're living, but that's usually done along with like a language study. So usually there's a scientific reason for that, and it's not done just to teach them to communicate. We like to make sure our gorillas are being as much gorilla and as little human as possible. So a lot of people will see Quisha when he claps. If he claps up high in front of his face, he'll usually flatten his hands out. But if he's clapping down in front of his belly, a lot of times his fingers will be curled in like a fist. And that looks a little bit like the sign for more, I think. So a lot of people think that he's saying more. And he is kind of asking for more if we're doing a roof feed, but not in the way that a lot of people are thinking. He's doing a behavior that he knows will sometimes get him a good response from us. So he's not using a sign as such, so much as doing a behavior that he's gotten a positive response from in the past. And the reason his fingers are curled under like that is that these guys, and really all the great apes, when they walk along the ground, they can stand up and hold their weight on two legs, but mostly when they walk, they're going to walk on their feet and on their hands. Now with their feet, it's usually, sometimes they'll walk on the side of their feet, but they usually walk on their flat feet the way we do. But with their hands, they do what we call knuckle walking. So that's where they're putting all of their weight on their knuckles. So they're going to walk kind of like this. I can't do it because I'm not a gorilla, but they're going to have all that weight on their knuckles. And so then the resting position of their hands is usually like this. So when we ask him to clap, he'll kind of do it like this. Because he doesn't, clapping for us, when we're clapping, we're applauding something, we're excited about something. It's part of the clapping is the noise. We're making a noise that acknowledges that we're excited, that we're happy, that we're applauding something. But for him, it's the gesture. He knows that we like this gesture, so he doesn't really. Now, I have seen some of them, they'll just learn to clap. It's an excited thing, and they'll go like this, and then they'll like bang on the window. So they do sometimes clap and make a noise, but when he's clapping, he knows that we're asking for that gesture, and so he's not necessarily doing it in a way that will cause the applause noise. So sometimes he'll just do it with his fingers curled in his relaxed position, and that'll look like the sign for more.
And Ashton wants to know, how do we celebrate their birthdays?
We like to have big parties with our apes here. So unfortunately, we missed Kitani's party because quarantine started. And we're going to miss Quisha's too, because we're going to be quarantined at least until May, and his birthday is a little over a week. But we're probably going to have a big party once everything's open again, have like a spring or a summer party. But so we'll give them a big party, but we obviously will make it treats that are safe for them and that are relatively healthy. You got to have a little bit of fun on your birthday.
Yeah, you get to splurge a little,
we'll give
right?
them some Jell-O, and we'll give them some extra treats. And we have some volunteers that do a really outstanding job of helping us make all those treats and decorations for us so that we have a big fun party. And they don't understand birthdays in the same way we do, but that doesn't mean that they can't still have fun every once in a while.
Absolutely. And Anna wants to know, how long is their arm span?
Oh, that's a good question. He's got a very, very long arm span. This is a number that I should know, and I'm bad at numbers. It's going to be 6 feet or longer. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that.
All right.
They're also, with humans, our arms and legs are fairly similar in size, but with gorillas, like I said, they do that knuckle walking. They walk on all fours primarily. And so their legs are a lot shorter than their arms are. So their body proportion's a little bit different than ours. So they have kind of short legs, but really long arms. Not quite as long as an orangutan's, but still pretty long.
And Isabel wants to know, how big is Quisha's hand? Because it looks huge.
Quisha's hand is very large. His hand's probably about twice the size of mine. He doesn't have, his hand proportions are actually closer to humans than when we were talking about orangutans a couple weeks ago, and Denda had those long fingers. So his hand's proportions are going to be closer to mine, but his fingers are a lot thicker, and just his hand in general is just about twice the size of mine.
They are very big. And Carrie wants to know, do we offer behind-the-scenes tours with these guys?
Unfortunately, we don't do behind-the-scenes tours with our primates because we have to be very careful. Like I said, they're so closely related to us that it's very easy for us to bring in diseases, even if we don't feel sick. So it's always easy for us to have a disease, but if our immune system is good or if we've had a vaccine, then we might not feel sick. But we could bring this into them and they're not as exposed to as much stuff as we are, so it could be easy to give them a disease that they're less immune to and they could get sick. So we have a lot of really cool behind-the-scenes tours with other animals at the zoo, and I recommend that you check those out. But if you want to see any of the primates, the great apes or the small primates, you got to see those from the public side.
Yep, and they do have cool outdoor exhibits. So we have Gorilla Meadow.
Yep.
And then the orangutans, which we did a couple weeks ago, have big outdoor areas behind where we are currently.
Yeah. So we do have some cool spaces, and we do keeper talks on certain days throughout the summer. So when we open back up in the summer, make sure you check out our keeper talk schedule so that even though you can't do it behind the scenes, you can still come talk to us and learn a little bit about these guys. Absolutely.
And Isabel wants to know, what is Mo's favorite food?
Mo likes a little bit of everything right now, but mostly he's the cleanup crew, I think, at this point in his life. He gets to eat what everybody else hasn't eaten right away. But he, of course, he likes the treats. Everybody goes for the treats first. So I think he enjoys Cheerios, I think, is one of the things that he really likes to eat when we give him Cheerios as a scatter item.
Like a lot of human toddlers, too.
And me.
Yeah, and me, too.
I'm an adult, and I like Cheerios.
I like Cheerios, too. And Finnegan wants to know, how much will they eat in a day?
They eat a lot. I don't know the pounds on that, but we get daily 2 about 5-gallon buckets full of produce, and we cut that up into smaller pieces so that we can spread it around and help encourage their natural foraging behavior. Besides that, we get 2 big Rubbermaid bins full of lettuce, so that's usually between, depending on how big the heads are, I'm gonna say you're gonna see between 24 and 32 heads of lettuce for the group. We get about 25 tomatoes for the group to share. And then we also give them their daily allotment of fruit that we distribute to them as evenly as possible because everybody wants some of the fruit.
And Jackson wants to know if they like apples and bananas.
They do. Apples are actually what I usually train them with, unless we're training something like tricky or something new, then I'll maybe give them something more exciting like pineapple or grapes if we have grapes. But they also, every morning, we separate them into individual holding areas so that we can see them all individually. We can do a little bit of training with them individually, and at that point they each get about 1/5 of a banana. Right. And that's the reward for separating well, is to get a piece of a banana. So bananas and apples are definitely treats that they like and they get almost every day.
And Anna wants to know, do they make a loud noise?
They can make loud noises. They typically like to be quiet, but if they feel like they need to scare away a threat, or if they themselves get startled, or if there's a fight or something, they can scream very loudly. They can make a barking noise that's very loud. Researchers have identified, I think, over 20 distinct vocalizations from gorillas. There's probably a lot more that just our human ears can't really differentiate, or that we haven't taken enough time to differentiate yet. But they'll make anything from like a low rumble, which is kind of a happy noise, to like a bark that's an alarm sort of call, to like a roar if Quisha's trying to scare away a threat. So they do have a lot of distinct noises, but generally they prefer quiet.
Okay. And Hannah, age 7, wants to know if they're friendly towards you guys or scared of you.
They are very friendly to us once they get to know us. I wouldn't say they're ever really scared of us, and we never ever share a space with them, so everything we do is done with a safe barrier in between us. So like I said, Sufi, she doesn't like the needle right now, so if she sees me with the needle, she might go sit, further away from me, and then I'll have to sit with her for a second and talk to her soothingly and offer her some treats to get her to come closer. But it's not me, it's the needle. Mm-hmm. When a new person starts in the area, so when I started years ago in the area, I didn't really have a problem getting to know the females. It was Quisha they'll all kind of test you a little bit, but he did more than anybody. And the hardest thing, I always tell people, the hardest thing to learn was to not react when he tries to startle you. So he'll wait until he thinks you're not paying attention when you're walking past him, and he'll bang really loudly on a door or something, and you just have to not react, because if you react, then he'll keep doing it. So, but then once they take the time, you've taken the time to let them get to know you, it's very important. Obviously, with an animal like this, I can't make them do anything they don't want to do. No. So,
especially not one this strong.
Especially not our 420-pound silverback. He's not going to do anything that he doesn't feel like doing. So it's very important for us to build a trusting relationship with them, and he will, he'll let me stick him with a needle. He'll let me file his fingernails. We're working on, we've got a little handheld EKG device that we're working on training them to put their fingers on so we can take heart rates. So, as long as we've got this trust with them, we can do all kinds of really great things to kind of help monitor their health. We do ultrasounds, cardiac ultrasounds, and reproductive ultrasounds if we ever have a pregnant female. So, yeah.
That's very cool. All right, we're going to end with Stephanie's question. Does Dad cuddle and take care of Mo like Mama does?
He doesn't as much as Mom, but he definitely does. Quisha has always been a really great dad. He's really great and really gentle with kids. It's one of my favorite things to see. He's this big, powerful guy, but he can really rein it in, and he'll tickle Mo. And he'll just, if Mo's tired, sometimes he'll just lean on Quisha and snuggle a little bit. So Quisha, he's a great dad. He's very gentle, and he loves his kids. And so Mo's a lucky little guy to have Quisha as a dad. But then I hear that about all the silverbacks. So.
Aww. Well, and who'd have thought? As you said, a lot of us see Quisha and we see that big brow, and we think, yeah, he's kind of grumpy, but he's just a big old sweetie.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything about our gorilla troop, and we look forward to the time when you guys can come back and see them outdoors. They look forward to the time when they can get outdoors and see all of you too. We hope that you will join us tomorrow, and we'll see you then.